I let my brother live in my apartment thinking I was helping. But in the end, they were the ones who almost kicked me out of my own home. Today, I'm going to tell you how what started out as a favor turned into one of the biggest regrets of my life. So grab your coffee, sit down with me. I still remember the weight of a spare key in my hand. It felt like nothing at the time. A simple piece of metal, a gesture of love. You can crash here until you get back on your feet, I told him. I said it with a smile, thinking I was doing something good. But if I had known what that small act would cost me, I would have swallowed that keyhole. My brother had just gotten out of a bad breakup, said he needed space to figure things out. Our parents were out of state, and I, stupidly, thought I could be the safe place. He looked so beaten down that day. So I let him in, literally and figuratively. I had no idea he'd end up pushing me out of my own life. The first few days were easy. He was quiet, even helpful. Washed some dishes, thanked me often, said he'd be out in a couple weeks. But deep down, something felt off. It wasn't what he did. It was what he didn't do. He didn't look for jobs. Didn't talk about moving. Just sort of settled. One evening, I came home from work and there were 2 plates in the sink. I only used one. When I asked him about it, he said, "Oh yeah, my friend stopped by. No big deal." I didn't think much of it. Everyone deserves visitors, right? But that's the thing about boundaries. You only notice they're missing when it's too late. Then came the perfume. Sweet. Strong. Definitely not mine. It clung to the bathroom towels, drifted into my bedroom. I chalked it up to a one-time visit. But soon, I started seeing long strands of hair in the shower drain. Lip gloss on the bathroom counter. A pink toothbrush next to mine. I asked him directly, "Is she staying over now?" He laughed. "No, she just hangs out sometimes. Don't make it a thing." But it was a thing. It was my space. My 1-bedroom apartment that I worked my ass off to afford. And suddenly, I was sharing it with people who didn't even ask to be there. What hurt the most wasn't just the invasion. It was the entitlement. Like my generosity gave them some unwritten permission to treat my home like a motel with no checkout time. Every day, I came home and felt like a guest in my own place. I started tiptoeing around, lowering my voice, hiding in my room, waiting for them to go to bed so I could breathe. I didn't want to be the naggy sister. I didn't want to cause a scene. But inside, I was screaming. I didn't open my home to be walked over. And yet, I did. I let it happen. I let it keep happening. And that's what I can't forgive myself for. But the thing about letting people walk all over you is eventually they start dragging mud in too. It started with the mugs. 2 of them left on the coffee table, lipstick smudged across one rim. I don't wear lipstick. At least, not that shade. I picked it up, stared at it for a second, then put it in the sink without a word. Denial is funny like that. It lets you lie to yourself just long enough to avoid a confrontation. Next came the laundry, a lace bra hanging from the doorknob to the bathroom. I didn't even own lace. I stood there frozen, heart pounding in my ears, wondering how far this had gone. I wanted to knock on his door and demand answers, but instead I just walked away. Told myself I'd bring it up next time. I wasn't blind. I just didn't want to be right. Because if I was right, then my brother, the one I trusted enough to give a home, was disrespecting me under my own roof. And that kind of betrayal, it's not loud. It's slow. It seeps in like water under the floorboards. He started locking his door. Weird, right? It's my apartment. There's only 1 bathroom, 1 kitchen, no secrets. But suddenly, I come home to find his door shut, music playing, whispers behind the walls. And when I'd knock, he'd open it with that fake grin. "Oh, hey, just watching a movie. What's up?" One night, I swear I heard giggling. Not just hers, his too. Like they were sharing some joke about me in my apartment, while I sat in silence in the next room. My jaw clenched so tight, I thought I'd crack a molar. Still, I said nothing. Because confrontation felt like failure. Like admitting I'd made a mistake letting him in. The fridge told its own story. Leftovers that weren't mine. A bottle of wine I didn't buy. Groceries vanishing faster than usual. She was eating here, showering here, sleeping here. And yet, she never once said hello. Never once acknowledged that I existed. Like I was the intruder in her space. I vented to a friend once, and she said, "Why don't you just kick them out?" And the truth is, I didn't have an answer. Maybe I didn't want to be seen as the cold-hearted sister. Maybe I was scared of the backlash. Or maybe, deep down, I was still hoping he'd do the right thing. But every day, it got harder to pretend this was temporary. She left her shampoo in the shower, her phone charger in the wall, a pair of slippers under the couch. These weren't visitations. These were footprints. She was moving in, piece by piece, and I was watching it happen in slow motion. The signs were there, bright, blinking, impossible to miss. But I turned my face away, because sometimes it's easier to ignore the red flags than admit you handed them the paintbrush. And by the time I finally looked up, the whole apartment was bleeding red. The moment it clicked wasn't loud. It wasn't dramatic. It was Tuesday. I walked into my apartment after work, and she was there, on my couch, barefoot, scrolling through her phone like she paid rent. She didn't flinch, didn't look surprised, just glanced up and said, "Oh, hey," like she belonged. I stood there, frozen, keys still dangling in my hand. She was wearing one of my hoodies. Not a similar one mine. The one I always wore on bad days. I blinked, trying to find the right words. My brother wasn't home. Just her. Alone. Comfortable. Like this had become a normal Tuesday routine. I went straight to my room and closed the door, heart pounding. That was the moment. Not because she was there, but because it wasn't weird to her. Because she didn't rush to explain or apologize. Because my space wasn't mine anymore, and no one even bothered to pretend. When my brother came home, I tried to be calm. I really did. "Hey, can we talk?" I asked. He barely looked up from his phone. "Yeah, what's up?" I told him how I felt. That this wasn't what we agreed on. That she was here too often. That I didn't feel comfortable anymore. He rolled his eyes. "You're overreacting. She's not living here. She just stays over sometimes. Why are you being so uptight?" And I swear, in that moment, I felt myself shrink. Like the problem wasn't her taking over my apartment, but me, daring to speak up about it. I wanted to scream. I wanted to ask when exactly did my generosity turn into entitlement. But instead I whispered, "This isn't fair." He scoffed. "She doesn't have anywhere else to go, okay? You want me to kick her out in the middle of the night?" And there it was. The trap. He made me the villain in a story where I was the one being used. My own brother, someone I thought would protect me, was now using guilt as a weapon. And I let him. I let that silence fill the room and choke out my anger. Because I was tired, and tired people rarely win arguments. After that, things got worse. She was always there, cooking in my kitchen, watching my TV, lounging in my bathrobe. They'd take up the whole couch, leaving me to eat dinner at the kitchen counter. Every night, I felt myself disappearing a little more. I wasn't living, I was surviving. In my own home. The place I worked so hard for had become a free Airbnb for two people who didn't even have the decency to ask permission. I thought being kind would make me strong, but all it did was make me invisible. It hit me like a slap. I opened my closet to grab the dress I'd been saving for an upcoming event. My favorite one, deep blue, silky, delicate, and it was gone. I blinked twice, thinking maybe I moved it, but then I saw it. Wadded up at the bottom of the laundry basket, inside out, stained with wine. My hand started shaking. I marched out of the room, dress in hand, and found her in the kitchen, humming while pouring herself a glass of my wine. The expensive one. The bottle I bought for a special celebration, tucked behind the others like a secret. She poured it like it was soda. No shame. No awareness. "Is this your dress?" I asked, holding it up like a flag in a war I hadn't agreed to fight. She looked at it, then back at me unfazed. "Oh, yeah, I borrowed it last weekend. Hope that's okay. Hope that's okay." My mouth opened but no sound came out. She turned back to the wine like I was the rude one for interrupting her moment. I waited for my brother to get home. I didn't just wait, I paced. Every minute felt like a scream trapped under my skin. When he finally walked in, I didn't even let him set his keys down. She's wearing my clothes. She's drinking my wine. She's using my things without asking. This is not okay. He didn't take my side. He never even paused to think. It's just a dress. And it's just wine. You got more, don't you? Like the things I worked hard for meant nothing. Like my boundaries were optional. His loyalty wasn't to me anymore. It was to the life he was building on my dime. Something cracked inside me. Not a loud, dramatic break, but a quiet, clean one. The kind that doesn't heal. I realized then that they weren't just taking up space. They were taking parts of me. My peace. My privacy. My place. And no one was going to give them back unless I took them. I stopped cleaning up after them. Stopped cooking extra. Stopped being polite. I started reclaiming tiny pieces of my life. Locking my bedroom door. Labeling my groceries. Blasting music when I knew they were asleep. It wasn't much. But it was mine. They noticed. And they didn't like it. My brother made snide comments about me being moody. She rolled her eyes when I walked into a room. Suddenly, I was the outsider in my own home, and I had invited them in. That shame had swallowed me whole. But under that shame, something stronger started to rise. Not rage. Not revenge. Resolve. I didn't know exactly how or when, but I knew this was ending. I was done asking for my life back. And when you've been quiet long enough, even a whisper can sound like thunder. Me invisible. And the worst part, I knew they weren't going to stop. Not unless I made them. The breaking point wasn't loud. It wasn't a fight or a scream. It was silence. Too casual. Too normal. I came home from work, exhausted, heels in one hand, and found them sprawled on my couch, laughing at something on the TV. My dinner was missing from the fridge. The one I made the night before. Gone. Not even a note. She was wearing my robe. My brother was eating from my bowl. The room smelled like her perfume and stale popcorn. My chest tightened. My jaw locked. I stood there, invisible again. But this time it burned. I dropped my bag on the floor. The thud echoed. No one flinched. I cleared my throat. Nothing. That was the moment I realized I didn't live there anymore. I paid the bills, signed the lease, cleaned the dishes, but they owned the space. My home had become their vacation rental. I walked to the kitchen. The sink was full. My good knife sat in a puddle of tomato pulp. The trash was overflowing. I'd been working overtime all week, and they couldn't even take it out. I leaned against the counter, hands trembling. Something inside me snapped. We need to talk. Now. My voice didn't shake this time. He muted the TV, finally. She rolled her eyes. I turned to him. I need you both out. This is done. The words tasted strange, like something I should have said weeks ago. But now they sounded like truth. His expression shifted. Not guilt. Not sadness. Offense. You're seriously kicking me out? Over some food? Over a dress? I laughed, dry, bitter. No. I'm kicking you out because you stopped asking. You stopped respecting. Because I don't even recognize who you are anymore. She scoffed. You know, not everyone has a trust fund in a downtown apartment. That hit me like a slap. Trust fund? I worked 3 jobs to afford this place. Skipped vacations. Cried through nights wondering if I'd make rent. And she sat there, wearing my robe, acting like I owed her something. Get out! I said again, steady now. You have 1 week. After that, I'm changing the locks. He stood, voice rising. You're unbelievable. Cold. Selfish. I met his gaze. No. I've just had enough. He stormed out. She followed, dramatic sigh and all. The door slammed behind them, and suddenly, the apartment was still. For the first time in months, I could hear the hum of the fridge, the creak of the floorboards, the sound of space returning to me. I slid down to the kitchen floor, knees to my chest. I didn't cry. Not right away. I just sat there, breathing, listening to the silence. It didn't feel empty. It felt like my home was finally breathing with me, saying, "Welcome back." The day after they left, I expected to feel sad. Lonely maybe, but I didn't. I woke up to a quiet apartment, sunlight pooling on the hardwood floor, and I just laid there, letting the silence wrap around me like a blanket. For the first time in months, my home felt like mine. My sanctuary. My space. Weeks turned into months, and I hadn't even noticed how much of myself I'd lost. I cleaned the whole place top to bottom. Not out of anger, out of healing. I tossed the robe she used, the dishes he left, scrubbed the bathroom until it sparkled, played music loud, danced barefoot in the living room. It was like shaking off a heavy coat I didn't realize I was wearing. People always talk about peace like it's a sound, waves crashing, wind blowing, birds singing. But peace, real peace, is absence. The absence of tension. The absence of walking on eggshells. It's your body relaxing without asking permission. That's what I felt that week. For the first time in a long time, my shoulders dropped. My jaw unclenched. I found things I hadn't seen in months. A journal I forgot I kept. A sweater I thought I lost. A picture of me smiling from a time before the apartment got crowded. I stared at that photo for a long time, not mourning who I used to be, but finally recognizing her again. He never apologized. He sent a short text, "Hope you're doing okay." That was it. No ownership, no regret. And honestly, that hurt more than if he had cursed me out. It confirmed what I feared. He never saw what he did as wrong. Maybe he still doesn't. But that's not my burden anymore. I spent so long carrying guilt that wasn't mine, trying to be the good one, the understanding sister, the bigger person. And for what? To be walked over? To be erased in my own story? I've learned that kindness without boundaries isn't kindness. It's self-abandonment. And I'm done abandoning myself to keep others comfortable. That chapter is closed. Locked. And I'm the one holding the key now. My home is quiet again. Clean. Warm. Sometimes the silence still feels unfamiliar, but I'm getting used to it. Some nights I light a candle, pour a glass of wine, and sit by the window with my favorite playlist. I don't need to fill the space anymore. I just need to be in it. Letting them go wasn't cruel. It was necessary. And claiming my peace back, that was the best thing I ever did. If you liked this story, leave a like, subscribe to the channel, and tell me in the comments. When was the moment when you also said, "That's enough"?